I think as a younger artist, it was like, this is the way it needs to be. I know what I like, and this is the way it is. This is the way I create. And now it's like every project is like its own child. The last piece, Wind in the Pines, was really like there were clear images that we were working off of, and partly that was understanding that we were working with a Japanese no theater piece by Ziyami called Matsukaze, or Wind in the Pines. And so we were consciously working with the Japanese no theater as a formal container, because it has all these formal conventions plus the play itself. So I often work with Japanese traditional forms as containers for exploring some aspect of ancestry. So for this particular piece, we're looking at kabuki, this form of dance theater. And it was, right now, it's very strictly like only cis men can perform kabuki, and they perform the role of women, but no women are allowed to be in kabuki. But it was founded by a woman named IzumonookunI, and I was really sort of surprised by that. I hadn't known much about her, and what we do know about her, which is that, so she brought a kind of group of various people together, other women, and putting on these shows outdoors. But eventually the form was associated with prostitution, and so it was outlawed, or women were not allowed to do kabuki for that reason. And then it was only young men who were doing kabuki, and for a similar reason, it was outlawed. It was labeled as kabuki, which means strange or indecent. So it's really interesting as a history, and so it was a little bit, countercultural, and so we're reimagining her as a sort of punk rock figure. And I didn't train in kabuki, so that's not a training that I have. It's really a launching off place for this imaginative world. In academia, I struggle with the language of academia, and I struggle with what language can do, but like dance sort of seeps through and offers a kind of sublinguistic kind of way of expression and being. It adds complexity to being in a body, and just possibility to being in a body, to be able to express oneself outside of the strictures or boundaries of how you are perceived in the world, how you even perceive yourself. You can literally move through, around, transgress those boundaries in a good way and explore other possibilities and ways of being. I did a little bit of dance here and there as a tiny person. Didn't have a very positive experience. It was like your typical, ballet studio, really strict and really punishing for even a young 5-year-old. And so I left pretty early. but I just kept coming back to the performing arts. In undergrad, I did a lot of what would be called modern dance technique forms in the Euro-American tradition. But it was an interdisciplinary school, so that was really exciting. That's where it felt like there was possibility to generate new ideas. And so we were in this kind of like a bunker or something where they put all the arts. So there was like the visual arts, and it was sort of like spoked out the way I remembered it, like a wheel. So you had the visual arts spoke, and the dance, and the film, and the music, and then there was kind of a common area in the center. And that structure was beautiful because we got to all, even though I don't know if I had to take classes in other disciplines, but we all met in the center. And so I met this visual artist named Cindy Machizuki and a theater artist named Trisha Collins, and we formed a collaborative, and right after graduation we started working together and doing these interdisciplinary shows. So that's where we really got to play with form and explore new ideas. And then later on I was introduced to somatics, various movement forms, working with kind of subtlety and exploring really the sort of layers of the body, from the organs to the tissues, and getting really deep into like the systems of the body, and that really expanded the palette. And I also trained in a little bit of Buto, which is a Japanese avant-garde form, with a company in Vancouver. So all of that feels like it's just in my body, and kind of just has stewed for a while in my body, and is a part of like what it is that I'm doing now. And Ryan and I inform each other all the time. So he's often working in a parallel way. We're not always in the studio together. We work in a kind of parallel way and then eventually come together. And so he's sort of seeing eventually what I'm making, I'm hearing, and then we kind of just let it seep in, and we let ourselves be permeable to it, and then we'll see what happens. We don't necessarily always talk about it in terms of meaning right away. And just like, this is what we like, this is what I like, this is what you like. Well, I don't like that. Like we'll have disagreements, and maybe that friction will create something new as well. This current piece that we're working on is very different because it's like, I don't have patience the images are too fleeting, and I don't have patience to set anything. So it's actually becoming more of a structured improv. Like I'm finding like the impulse needs to be immediately expressed, and it's more about finding the right container for the improvisation. Like I need to be a baby, or I need to be a horse, and now I need to be the rider. I became interested in how the body houses memory, but also generationally, like not just the things that we've gone through. And of course there's a field of epigenetics. So I became really interested in like, oh, can I access histories that I don't know, that I don't consciously know? Is there a way to access that through movement? You know, especially given the work, it's sort of exploring ancestry and who I am. I'm mixed race Asian. I realized I've been really drawn to hybridity for a long time. So the hybrid, the putting things together that don't necessarily belong, or the friction, in a way our collaboration, Ryan and I, that's partly what's so exciting, is like, again, is the rub or the friction of like that and that, like, really? And then conceptually, we're often just batting things back and forth. So it really does, we are really making together. To give yourself permission to be who you are, and to try the things that you want to try and do the things that you want to do. I mean, that's advice that I'm giving myself. And that's advice I wish I had earlier on, to just let myself be the whatever weirdo that I am, you know, and to do it, and to not, I mean, even inside of an art form, we can start to conform to whatever's out there. And those various ways of moving or thinking and doing, they're incredibly useful as tools, but they're just that. And definitely as a parent, I'm thinking about it a lot as my daughter's in school, and just thinking about that 8-hour day in a chair, you know. And we still have ways of incorporating the visual arts in the public school system. We're not really incorporating dance and movement in the public school system at all. And I think it's a problem. Like, I think it's such a problem. You know, we're disconnected from our bodies, and we all have the right to move our bodies, and it's just, we do it as babies. Like, we all dance.